I just can't help but begin this sermon with, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Wait a minute, Jesus. What's going on here? I'm not sure if you remember, but on December 24th, we all gathered here and we sang, Silent Night, Holy Night, all is calm, all is bright. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, Jesus. Does anybody recall singing this hymn? Well, what gives today? What's going on? Jesus is saying, I came to bring fire, and how I wish it were already kindled. I came to bring division. What gives, Jesus? Did somebody change your job description and nobody told me? Is Jesus in a bad mood? Well, I'm not sure, but the infant mild who was born in that little town of Bethlehem, where did he go? We're in the 12th chapter of Luke. We're in the 12th chapter of Luke today, and for the next several weeks, we should prepare ourselves to hear words from Jesus that might not be characteristic of the nice guy that we imagine. He's really getting down to business and doing some pretty intense teaching about the reason that he came to be among us in the first place. And the reason he came to be among us in the first place is so that he could embody and enact the vision of God. So maybe we should go back and recall those very early chapters of Luke when Jesus was a peaceful baby, because it is there that we hear his real job description. And it begins with the prophet Zechariah. Remember him? He was a priest. He was hanging out in the temple, and he was told that his wife would have a baby, John the Baptist. And Zechariah knew that he was a part of something bigger. And what did he say about this Jesus? That he would help to lead his feet into the path of peace. And then we heard from Mary, Jesus' mother, Mary's Magnificat. She said, let it be with me, and she tells the story of a God who comes to scatter the proud, to lift up the lowly, and to give to the hungry good things. And then they take that baby to see Simeon in the temple. And Simeon cradles the baby and he says, now I can go free. I can go in peace, Simeon says. And then with John the Baptist, it gets a little more real because John says about Jesus, John says, I came to baptize with water, but Jesus is coming to baptize with the Holy Spirit. So that's just a little recap. Previously in the life of Jesus, those are the things that shook down. But today we're in chapter 12, and Jesus is well beyond the first 3 chapters. In fact, he's into the next chapters of his ministry, and yes, it has a different energy. But I'd like to invite us to think of Jesus not as angry, but rather think of Jesus as passionate. Passionate. He cares intensely for the message that he is delivering. He is fired up about making God's vision real. He is about peace. But turns out, peace doesn't always look like a silent night, holy night. Sometimes the reality that we are calling for doesn't match up with what we imagine it to be. It reminds me of all of those times that we say that we want change, or we want to be engaged in radical ministries. It all sounds like a very good idea until it affects us. I remember in my last congregation, there was and there is a terrible problem with our unhoused sisters and siblings and brothers. And since that church was right in the middle of things, they wanted to open a night shelter every night during the cold months. And we had parish conversations to explore the idea, during which I could not emphasize enough, I could not say enough, this is really going to become inconvenient. Oh no, it'll be fine, they said. The shelter was very effective, and it served as a model in so many ways, but the bright and the shiny soon wore off. As expected, it did present issues and inconveniences. It also caused a little bit of division within the community. You see, we had some neighbors, some shopkeepers, some coffee shop and diner owners who would come to me and say, "You're enabling those homeless people." I did not come to bring peace, Jesus says, but division. St. Paul's, here, this lovely church, like so many other churches, is trying to do the right thing with their buildings and histories. We say that we want our churches to be radically welcoming for all people. Again, seems like a good idea, but the process of radical inclusion can involve some change. And we literally have to change the stories we tell, which means we have to edit brochures, monuments, plaques, and even modify church architecture. If we believe in equality and justice for all, our church properties should reflect that spirit, right? You've been through it. We're still going through it. It's complicated, and the conversations can create divisions. Sometimes I talk to other church leaders in the broader church who are also engaging in the process of racial work, and they usually say, "I'm afraid it's going to tear my congregation apart." I came not to bring peace, but division, Jesus says. One final example. 2 weeks ago, over 500 bishops from across the global Anglican Communion gathered for the once-every-10-year Lambeth Conference. And as usual, access to marriage was a hot topic. Many bishops in the Episcopal Church in the United States support our position on marriage equality among the LGBTQ community. Some of the other bishops in other more conservative areas of the world are not as receptive. And being the figurehead of the entire Anglican communion all over the world, I imagine the Archbishop of Canterbury was a little bit nervous when that agenda item popped up. He did a lot of preparation for it. And as they prepared to leave, I read many statements from American bishops stating that they were not going to leave their LGBTQ siblings in the dust on this conversation. I came not to bring peace, Jesus said, but division. You get my point. You get my point, I hope. Sometimes the peace that we are called to usher in will lead to divides. Did Jesus think that his vision of the kingdom was going to be an easy pill to swallow? I don't think so. And that's why today even Jesus says, "I'm stressed out." Did you catch that? I am already stressed. I have barely gotten down the road, and I'm stressed out. And stress comes from a word meaning to draw tight. And if we get too tight, we snap. We don't want that, do we? Religion is supposed to make us feel good, not stressed. So what do we make of this stressed out Jesus? I think that's the bottom line of what we're dealing with today. How do we make sense of these words? Can we skip chapter 12 and stay in those warm and fuzzy Christmas hymns? I'm afraid not. But as usual, some of my preacher-teacher colleagues have a few things to say that can help us make sense of where Jesus is and where he's coming from today. Notice that Jesus does not say, I came not to bring peace, but to bring war. He says, I came to bring division. As this passage suggests, the opposite of peace in Jesus' teaching is not war, but division. And I just have to ask, is division really the worst thing if it's managed well? And this type of division is a specific kind. Does Jesus really desire to scorch the earth with the fire? One of my teachers says, probably not. That's good teaching, right? But I think he's right, probably not. Jesus' words definitely, though, interrupt the status quo. Now remember that Jesus is speaking to a people in which family is everything. It was a clan mentality, and they depended on each other for putting food on the table and farming and housework and economics. The family was everything. So just imagine what those first hearers would have thought when Jesus threatened to upend the family system, to threaten the environment in which family is tight. Parents get along with children, mothers get along with daughters-in-law, and daughters-in-law get along with mothers. You see, what he's doing here is trying to get them to see that there is a new system in place that is stronger than both country and family. Jesus is passionate today about this vision because he wants people to know about how God is imagining the world. And understandably, we often have trouble seeing what is new and needed and necessary. And that's why Jesus says today, the other big line I want to draw out, he says, hey, you can look at the sky, you can feel the wind, and you can get a sense of when to take cover and seek shelter. Why can't you see the vision of community that God has set before you? It's true, isn't it? We've gotten really good at predicting the weather. I just spent a week with my family at the beach, and every time we would go out, they would take out their apps and they would say, oh, it's going to rain in 4.5 minutes. You better wait. Sure enough, there comes the rain. We can predict just about anything these days. Yet Jesus calls us to really interpret the current times. That's what he's calling us to. Look around and see the situations that we're in. Notice the condition of the world. Be attentive to how we treat our neighbors. Be aware of what we have and what is really ours. We know when there's going to be a rainstorm. But are we really looking honestly at how the world around us is shaping up? Now, I think this is where the church comes in. What are we supposed to do about it, Jesus? Well, the church is not called to be meteorologists. We're not called to be analysts or policymakers, but we are here. We are here in the name of Jesus to interpret what is happening all around us. And then, if we are to embrace the hard, challenging vision that Jesus embodies, well, that's where the fire part comes in. Because fire purifies. Fire purifies. I came to bring fire to the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. What do you mean by that, Jesus? Well, as a teacher friend says, this means that some things have to go. Oppression has to go. Greed has to go. Ego has to go. Dehumanization has to go. Same with idolatry, narcissism, and any other thing that you can think of that keeps all of humanity from flourishing. Jesus is passionate about this vision. And he knows that not everyone is going to be on board. And this is why he is stressed. And personally, I'm glad that this tiny word is in there, stressed, because I can relate. And I bet you can too. Our work together in the church can be frustrating. It can be disappointing. It can be angering. It can make us feel like we're going to snap. But we must remember that Jesus has been there too. And he probably didn't sit in on committee meetings. Today, Jesus is calling us to look around. You know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and the sky, Jesus says, but why do you not know how to interpret the present time? There's a singer born in 1939, and he asked the question in a different way. Marvin Gaye. He says, what's going on? You might not know that Marvin Gaye was killed by his father, shot. Marvin Gaye asked, what's going on? There are too many people dying, and there are too many mothers crying. What's going on? How I wish I could tell you that our lives as Christians will be stress-free. But our Lord's life does not give us this example. Jesus' life was shaped around a vision that all of life might flourish. And our call to work toward that vision will certainly not settle well with others. And it will certainly cause some amount of division, even within our families. But still, we do not lose hope. We do not lose hope, St. Paul's. And part of our hope, part of the faith that we proclaim is that even as things change, God is stable. Even as things divide, God is whole. Even as differences among us increase, our faith in Jesus keeps us connected. Stress and division are inevitable. There may be times when we want to take a break, bite someone's head off, leave the church, or simply quit. But remember that God does not call us to snap. Our Christian journey is for the long haul, and it calls for balance. So if you ever hear anything consistently from me, it's always going to be take care of yourselves, even in the midst of the work we are called to do. Could it be that Jesus can turn even stress into something useful and productive? What would it look like to balance our stress with holiness, prayer, reading, silence, song? What would it look like to balance our stress with community, regular worship, conversations? What would it look like to balance your stress with the assurance that in these sacraments at this table, God is present to and for everyone? Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Well, maybe not all the time. But that's okay, because today we join with our ancestors who have gone before us and who have asked, what's going on? And today we join them in committing to God's ongoing eternal vision. We join in times of triumph and in times of stress, trusting that even in divisions, God's purposes are being worked out. And in these days that we have, we are a part of the mending. let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with you, with me, with us. Amen.